about to make a #1 topper for a cake, and I wanted to show you how I do that, so stay tuned so you can see what I do. Okay, so to start, I have my cutting board. I have needle tool, my favorite tool, an X-Acto knife. This is just a paper towel that I keep wet in the corner so I can keep wiping my tools off. So I'm making this #1 here. What I did is the pink is on top of white and is on top of blue. Since the blue is the bottom color, I need that to be the thickest fondant. So I rolled out fondant the size that I'm going to need. So this one fits in this fondant. This is about, I don't know, what's that, like 3/4 of an inch thick or something? It's thick enough that I can get this skewer to go through it without the skewer showing. So what I'm going to do first is trace the pink. So I have fondant here of all colors that I need. I roll out my fondant with a little bit of tylose powder. A little bit goes a long way with this. This helps the fondant stiffen up so it's easier to handle. It makes it more like gum paste. So I'm going to place this on top of the fondant, and I'm going to get my needle tool and just start poking around. Making sure that I'm not exactly on the number. I'm a little further out, so when I cut the number, it's going to be the same size that's on the paper. Then once that is cut, remove the extra fondant. And like always, I'm going to smooth the edges with my fingers and or whatever tools I have, so everything is pretty. Okay. Then I'm going to put this back on top of the one to make sure that it keeps its shape. Now the next layer is white. This pink is on the white. So what I do is take the #1. I'm just going to slide it off of the paper onto the white, trying to keep the shape. And then just lift up as I can. I have the small paintbrush here, a little bit of water. Try not to get too much water on the paintbrush or else it'll seep out from underneath. So keeping the one where it is, gently lift it up and then get a little bit of water underneath it so it sticks, and then push it back down. Doing it this way allows the number to keep its shape. If you, I mean, you can, this is pretty big, so you can technically just paint the back with water and stick it down, but water isn't very forgiving, so if you stick it in the wrong place, it's kind of hard to move. And this has not that thick of a border around it. So I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and start to cut the border. Now you have to eyeball it and make sure you're cutting the same distance around the whole thing. Sorry, I got to get my head in here for a second. Trying to keep my head out of the video. And then we're gonna do the same thing. Now I wanna do a little bit of a thicker border around the edge. Again, I'm sorry if my head is getting in this. I just want to make sure I can see that it's even the whole way around. I'm kind of sawing through this, but I'm not going the whole way down. I'm just making a marker line, because if I just saw through it, it could pull the fondant and make it not clean and precise. So I'm just gently like sawing up and down and trying to make the line evenly around the number, and then I will go around and cut the whole thing. Okay, I'm gonna wipe this off on the paper towel. Fondant starts to stick to it, so this just keeps it clean. So then I'm just going to, now I can stick the knife the whole way through and start cutting using that line that I made earlier as a guide. I try not to drag it all the way to the end. When I get close to the end, I try to cut down so it doesn't distort the shape. The number 1 is pretty easy. When you get to like 3 and 8 and the letter S and like stuff that has all those curves, it's kind of a pain in the ass. But these have a lot of straight edges, so this is all good. I love number 1. I do more first birthday cakes than anything, so I do a lot of ones. And just like I always do, you can see these edges aren't very nice, so I'm just going to start taking my finger. I usually like to flip it over and get the bottom part first, the bottom edges. And then I can work with the top edge. So the end of this paintbrush is nice for me to use as a tool to get into crevices, and you can use the flat edge to push this down. This is the time-consuming part about cutting out your own numbers and letters, but it really does make a difference in the look of the cake. Everything looks nice and clean, so it's worth the extra time that it takes to smooth everything out. Okay, so there's the one. Now we have to put the skewer in it. So I'm going to go wet this. This is only going to get wet up until here because this is going to be the only part that sticks into the one. So I'm going to go wet this. And I'm going to put this on a different cutting board for it to dry. Now, by holding this up to here, I know that I have to go up until around here to get this the whole way into the skewer or into the number 1. So what I'm going to do, I want to start making a hole right in the middle. If you make it too high, the skewer's going to show. If you make it too low, it's going to pop out of the back. So this is the tricky part of this. I just start making a hole like right in the middle. And what I'm doing, I'm not pushing it through, I'm twisting it twist and twist to make the hole. So I'm trying not to distort the shape. So I'm lightly holding on down on the top and twisting. And I start to flip it over to make sure it's not going to poke through the back. And then I flip it over again to make sure it's not poking through the front. This whole time, I'm just twisting the stick. A little out of frame here, but I'm just twisting the stick. Keep twisting it. You'll kind of feel it. Like if it starts to poke, not poke, but if you start to feel the bump in the front or in the back, you're not sticking this in straight enough. So you just got to kind of, I'm just turning it a little bit at a time, while I'm pushing it into the number one. So it's a lot going on here. I can see it's starting to show through a little bit on the front. So that means it's coming up too high on the top. So what I want to do is push down a little bit as I'm pushing it through to help get it away from the top. I hope this all makes sense. It all makes sense in my mind because I do it all the time. And there have been times where I've stuck the skewer through and it pops out the back or out the front or whatever, and I just kind of got to figure out a way to fix it. Sometimes I might put a little flour there or something, you know, so you can't really see it. So there's your number one topper. It'll be ready to go in the cake by tomorrow. So I usually make the toppers and stuff like this a day early, and I just let it sit out. I take this board and put it aside and let it sit out, and it'll be dry by tomorrow and I can put it on a cake. So here you go. Here's your number one topper. It's pretty easy. I've been doing it like this for years. You just want to make sure that you make this in advance and give it enough time for it to dry. You don't want to put this on a cake right away because it could start to slide down the skewer and it could lose its shape. So make it a day or 2 or 3 in advance and let it sit out, and it will be good to go. If you have any questions, you can leave them below. Feel free to like this video if you liked it and hit the subscribe button if you already haven't. And feel free to follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and I have my website. And I think that's it. So I'll see you on the next one. Bye.